It's That's Lit with me, Shazzy D, and I've got another exciting episode for you today. Joining me on the show is the founder of Blk Curate Collective, Aletana Ajulo. Aletana, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited.
Well, I'm excited too because we've got lots to cover. But I do want to start by asking you to tell the people, okay, let us know what is Blk Curate Collective?
Great question to start with. So, Blk Curate Collective, or BCC for short, is an online directory and community platform that connects you to Black-owned businesses. So, the aim is to help uplift Black-owned businesses, give them greater visibility and access to opportunities. So, it's a platform based on Instagram, LinkedIn, and a website. And then we are building in-person engagement too.
And so, where at the moment is it based? Like, where can people, I guess, sign up? How does that work?
So we're currently based, or we have businesses listed from Canberra, Melbourne, and Sydney. We are launching a new location this month. Watch this space. And we've actually received applications from nearly every state and territory in Australia, and we've also received international applications. So as we get more and more applications from a location, we'll launch that location and continue to let the business grow.
Amazing. So, do people kind of self submit?
Yeah, so sometimes we reach out to businesses that follow us, and other times businesses will reach out to us or they'll sign up directly. So we have the link in our bio on Instagram, but we also have on our website the Get Verified or how to join BCC section. So we use Typeform and people submit a Typeform. It's only about 5 minutes and it's really just so we know who you are, where you're located, what you offer, and what you want to get out of being listed in BCC.
And now, what made you want to create this platform?
So I had the idea about 2 years ago, or so, and I had it in the back of my mind, kind of like, oh, how great would it be to have a centralized space to find Black-owned businesses? I love supporting Black-owned businesses. I always have, but I found it hard to find them sometimes, and I realized I am the target audience. I'm the target market. So if I'm struggling to find Black-owned businesses, I wonder what other people's experiences are. And then it kind of started to come into fruition when I moved to Sydney. So I moved to Sydney in January last year, so January 2025. And I had moved from Canberra. And in Canberra, I knew all the Africans, really, all the Black-owned businesses. And then when I moved to Sydney, I assumed it'd be easy, maybe even easier to find Black-owned businesses because the Black population is larger. But it was actually harder because of the way Sydney is spread. So I was really struggling to find different kind of services, whether it was like African food or someone to do my braids. I was kind of struggling to find services, and I thought it shouldn't be hard considering these businesses exist. There are so many Africans and Black diaspora members who have businesses. So it wasn't about the businesses not existing, it was about me being able to find them. And then I think I had this, I guess you could say, aha moment when I would find a Black-owned business. And one of the first questions they would ask me is, how did you find me? And I thought, okay, that's an interesting question that I keep getting. And I haven't heard this from other businesses, from other communities. So I thought, okay, I think there's a visibility problem and I want to try and do something about it. So that's kind of how BCC came to be.
So, it's really solving, not only a problem that you had, but maybe potentially other people may have,
Mm.
trying to find a Black owned business. Um, I also understand you have a background in psychology. Did that in any way help shape how you approached creating this platform?
Oh, most definitely. So I have a bachelor in international security studies and a bachelor in psychology. And with my psychology degree, I found it so important to understand communities and how communities are built and how they're maintained and what it means to be community led. So I really wanted to build something that was more of a bottom up approach than a top down approach. So I wanted to work alongside businesses rather than imposing an idea and making businesses join. I wanted to build alongside businesses. So anyone who I work with, I always say I'm working with them, and I also always try and make sure they're building. Building into them, they're building into me. So it's a nice co-design. So psychology has really helped because it helps me understand, the dynamics of people. but also the psyche of individuals and groups. And of course, psychology is so helpful in everything, but particularly in business, you have to understand human behavior to understand, why people will invest in something or not. So even before I fully launched BCC, I kind of floated the idea with a few close friends and family to see if this was something that would be helpful. Because I guess as a business, as a founder, there's nothing worse than launching something that doesn't actually help people or doesn't meet a need. So it's not something that other people care about. But people kept saying, no, actually, I've had this issue too. And so, again, that's that understanding needs, human behavior, the way people feel. So I thought, okay, other people feel this way too.
Incredible. Just applying that, and it's something that you can even just take on further. Like the more you continue with your business, the more you
Mm.
understand people, the more you can help. And it's like it just keeps going.
Absolutely. I think as well, we forget that businesses are people. Like people are businesses. We think even the biggest corporations, they are people first and foremost. So you have to have a good understanding of people or build your understanding of people to build a business, or at least a community-led business in particular.
And something I thought was really cool is how you really specified that BCC is not just a directory. It's not just, here is a list. It's really about you also building community. Can you talk about your passion for building community?
You're so right. I literally have said to people, if I wanted to create a list, I would have created a Google Doc and people and shared it, and that would be that. But I guess I've always been someone who really cares about community. I've lived in a few different countries, so I've lived in the UK, New Zealand, and Australia. And I'm of Nigerian heritage, and so I understand what it means to have community and find community and build community. And so whether it's in my faith, like in my church life, whether it's as a young woman, whether it's some of my hobbies and passions or my like heritage, my Nigerian community or the broader African community, I really try and be involved. And I think you learn so much in and with community. And I've always been quite community minded. So I think I've always been into leadership, and to be a leader, you need to be in community, and also you need to serve community. So not just leading from the front, but actually serving people. And so I've always had a community mindset. It's always been how I am. I think I come from a communal, background. I think a lot of Africans have that communal mindset, have a really strong idea of, the village. So for me, it was really important that I do things that are community focused because I want to build something that's beyond myself, that's not just helpful for me, but actually helpful for a lot of people and a community that doesn't always get the support or recognition that we deserve.
Yeah, 100%. And in terms of your kind of leadership passion, kind of that area, you recently spoke at the Future Action Summit.
I did, yes.
What's that experience like?
That was really cool. So I think I am always very honored whenever people invite me to speak at an event. It's such a privilege to speak and people want to hear what you have to say and people want to engage in a conversation with you. I think the art of conversation is so important, and I joke that I am very serious about keeping that alive, that the art of conversation needs to continue. And so with the Future Action Summit, it was focused on youth and it was focused on the Sustainable Development Goals within the UN, so the SDGs. We were mostly talking about gender equity, but of course, when we talk about things like gender equality, gender equity, that also leads into things like education, potentially access to clean water. The 17 SDGs are all very interrelated. So that was really interesting. I do have a policy background and I do have experience with youth organizations. I went to the UN last year. I led an Australian delegation to, thank you.
Wow.
I went to the UN headquarters in Rome, so the Food and Agricultural Organization, for the World Food Forum. And so I do have that kind of experience with youth engagement and real advocacy with and for youth empowerment beyond tokenism. So it was great to talk about those sort of things and what it means to open doors and also give people a seat at the table or start to build new tables. So that was a great experience. And I was on a panel with some incredible women. So that was a really, really great experience. And it was here in Sydney. So it was nice to talk about international things where I live.
Wow, I'm sorry. I'm just going to backtrack to you went to the United Nations headquarters though in Rome. Wait, is that the headquarters? No, I'm just making it
That's
up.
one of the headquarters.
One
So
of, yeah,
for the that particular organization, that's their headquarters, but a lot of them are headquartered either in New York or Geneva.
Geneva. Yeah, I was like, I feel like I'm wrong, but no,
We're all correct.
you
We're
were
all
all
right.
correct. That's
Everyone is right.
that's super cool. So you went to Rome. You really found that, yeah, like, you learned a lot from there, I'm assuming.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's one thing to go to an international conference, and it's another thing to lead a delegation to an international conference. So, for example, making sure people were well mentally and physically, because it's very intense. You know, you're doing 8 to 12 hours worth of engaging and learning. And I think what happens in a lot of international conferences, there are a lot of fireside chats, a lot of side chats, and they're super important. But they often happen before or after the conference. So your days are very long. So having that sense of being engaged, but also finding time for rest. And then, yeah, leading a group of adults to a country none of us had been to before, and to a location none of us had been to before. None of us had been to the UN. And so that was an incredible experience. I think that was one of the biggest experiences I had last year.
I'm inspired. And here I am thinking, oh yeah, the Lizzie McGuire movie was filmed over there. Like,
I
no.
thought that too, though. I thought that too. I said, oh, wow, this is what dreams are made of.
So can you give us a bit more about your experience in public speaking?
Yeah, so I have always done public speaking, particularly in school, because I had different leadership positions. But one pivotal moment was my a lecturer I had in university. Shout out to Dr. Caro. She invited me to speak on a panel for a conference, and this is the first time I'd been invited to speak at something of that scale. And I initially thought, oh, am I ready? You know, I'm still in university. And she said, I wouldn't have asked you if I didn't think you could do it. I said, okay, fair enough. So I did that, and that really opened the door for a lot of public speaking engagements. From that point onwards, I was constantly invited to speak at different things, whether it was as a moderator or a panelist or a keynote speaker. And that really sparked something within me. I've always been an extrovert, I've always enjoyed speaking. I love to, I guess, talk out loud, but also share ideas. I've always enjoyed learning in that way. And then when that started, I realized, okay, it just actually takes one person to give you one opportunity that can change the kind of trajectory of not just your life, but your career. So that was something I was really grateful for. And I encourage people to be that person who encourages, if you see a talent or a gift or something you admire in someone, not only tell them, but also offer them opportunities to continue to hone in that gift. So as every single public speaking engagement I get better. I look at what I say and I reflect on how to say it better or how to expand my knowledge. To speak well, you need to read, you need to write, you need to listen, you need to learn. Otherwise, you'll end up talking about the same things over and over. So I really try and be someone who can hold a conversation about anything, even if I don't know that much about it, because that means I've got good active listening skills and I'm proactive and I'm intuitive. But of course, I prepare for all my speaking engagements, and I do my research and I make sure that I understand what I am meant to be talking about, and that I understand my target audience. You've got to adapt your style and your speaking depending on who you're talking to, because at the end of the day, if your message doesn't resonate with who's listening, then you haven't really achieved what you're meant to as a public speaker. So that is a little bit about my public speaking journey.
So this is actually your first business.
It is. It is.
Is there anything that has surprised you about starting a business?
Where do I begin? I think so. I guess for context, I started BCC in October last year. So we're coming up on, 7, 8 months. And there are many things that I have learned and continue to learn. I guess in business, some of the things that are not the most exciting are the most important. So your structures, whether you have an ABN, do you have someone who can support you with accounting so that you're doing the right thing? Do you have someone who's got legal background? So again, you're protecting your business and other businesses that you're working with understand how to interact with you. Partnerships and collaborations, how do you do that strategically? And then how do you build trust? In whatever you're doing, whatever business you pick, there are already people doing similar things. So how do you stand out in a market that can be oversaturated? Although I've said it before and I'll say it again, I believe that no matter how oversaturated a market is, there's still space for you. There's still space for your business. There's still space for your idea. It's just about figuring out how to do that in the smartest way possible. I think as well, yeah, all those sort of background things are so important. Even things like your website domain, registering your business name, getting an email that works for multiple people, not just one person, or using a domain that you understand. I made the mistake of registering the website with a domain that was linked to an email I didn't understand. So, like your website domain, for example, is linked to your business email typically. And so I registered with one I hadn't heard of and I thought it would be fine, but I actually did not know how to use that software. I'm used to usually using like Outlook or Gmail or iCloud, for example. So, even figuring out those little things that actually make a big difference, particularly with communication, if you want people to trust you or to give you a chance as a new business, you have to have good communication. But how do you have good communication if you have an email that doesn't work?
Exactly. Good point.
It's
Good point.
sometimes going back to the basics.
Yeah.
So I was like, before I do all the really fun and all the visuals and the things that you, the audience, and the people get to see, I need to get things in place. I need to have systems and structures in place that also give me a good foundation so I can expand and grow. Because yeah, you can't build off, or you can build off a shaky foundation for your business, but you will hit roadblocks that you could hopefully avoid if you focus on that foundation earlier on.
Yeah. So starting well.
Starting well makes a difference. And I think also having people that you can talk to, not just people that you work with or who work for you, but people that you trust and who can give you honest advice, honest feedback. When you have a business, and I'm sure you feel this way as well about your podcast, it's very precious to you.
Yeah.
It's something that feels like a reflection and an extension of you. And so learning to receive feedback and constructive criticism is not easy, but it's actually made me a better founder and it continues to make me a better founder.
Oh, I totally agree. Sometimes, it may hurt to hear in the moment, but
Mm,
it improves you in the long run. So it's
absolutely.
just,
That short-term discomfort
yeah.
leads to long-term growth.
Oh, yes, for sure. What kind of is the ultimate goal, or what's kind of the big vision for B?
Mm. I love that question because I've always been a big vision person and a big picture person. I think for me, I want BCC to be helpful and accessible and usable no matter where you're located. So my mindset is if there's a Black person that lives in that place, I want BCC to be in their location. So, I want it in many cities, many countries around the world. That if you want to support a Black owned business or find a Black owned business, you can. That BCC makes it super easy. So that's my big goal. And then I want to have in-person events. I want to build connections so that people can find other people to work with. So that kind of peer-to-peer collaboration, but also, of course, expand their audience and reach new people so they can increase, not just their revenue, but what can they do in their business more strategically. Education is really important in BCC. So I'd say our three pillars are access to opportunity, education, and visibility combined with Black joy. So I really want it to be a joyful space. Business can be hard and stressful, no doubt about it. But I think BCC, or I hope that BCC is a really joyful corner of the internet for people where they can come on, they can learn, they can share, they can watch, they can be inspired. That's what I want BCC to feel like.
That's so nice. Because look, like you said, business is difficult, but there are times where you kind of step back and be grateful or just kind of look at what you've created. I think
Yeah.
while you're in it, it can be like, "Oh, okay, I'm trolling through day by day. But once you step back, like,
Mm.
look, I created this thing, and other people get to enjoy as well. So it's good. I like that you have joy as well as part of your business.
Yeah, I think that it makes me sad, but I understand why it happens when founders and entrepreneurs no longer find joy in what they've built or what they're building and they're over it or they don't really want to be a part of it anymore. And so I want to try and, I guess, reduce that in BCC. I want people to still be engaged with their business, even if they need re-strategize or take a step back. I want people to really enjoy what they're building while they're building it and after they've built it. And I think many founders, our dream is to build something that exists beyond us so that we don't have to be at the forefront anymore, unless we choose to. Like it's something that's ongoing and has that sense of being part of a legacy.
Something you mentioned just before was about saturation. And I think that
Mm,
is a really nice thing that you pointed out about if you're starting a business and maybe you're looking around and thinking, okay, there's so many other, hair salons, or there's so many other, whatever
mm,
type of business it is to never use that as an excuse to stop pursuing it if that's what you're really passionate about or that's
mm.
something that you want to try. With BCC, have you, had a situation where there have been, similar businesses kind of popping up?
I guess when I was pre-launch, I again floated the idea, and some people were like, "Oh, I've tried to do it, or I've heard of someone else doing something similar." And I guess for me, I'm quite a determined person, pretty resilient. So I said, "Okay, that's no problem." And it's good for me to understand the environment, understand the market. Again, part of being clever in business is understanding who might be your competition and or options for collaboration. So it's good to do that environmental scan. I didn't see something that had the community aspect that I have built or am building in BCC. I saw more of the traditional directories, traditional websites. And so I guess that's where I felt I could make a point of difference. I also think Australia is in a really interesting position in terms of like our African diaspora, our Black diaspora, because we are typically one of the newer migrant groups. And so I think if I tried to build BCC in like the UK or the US, I think it would have been a lot harder to stand out. I would have also had a lot more businesses I could potentially connect with, because of the size of their Black population. But in Australia, I think I was positioned in a really unique way where this is kind of just when we're starting to get more and more Africans. So I felt like, okay, I had an almost sliding doors moment where I thought, if I don't get this off the ground now, someone else will do something similar quite soon. I felt like this is a pivotal moment.
And I'm just going to say, regardless of, and not that someone should just copy paste what you've done, but regardless, I think what makes it special and what makes it unique is your perspective, your experience, your background. So I think you're doing a great job.
Thank
And
you.
you should be very proud of thinking of this idea and kind of the next step. It's not just a directory, like really putting that community focus on it and then really thinking kind of long term of what you want this to be. And what makes it special is you.
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you. And right back at you. I love your podcast and I love the way that you make your guests feel very comfortable.
Thank
And
you.
you do your research too. You do your
Thank
research.
you. Thank you.
So how
Yes.
does she know I spoke at that thing?
Hey, it's what I do.
And you do it well.
Thank you. Look, I know it's, been a few months with BCC, but I would love to ask if you have any advice, any tips that you could share to anyone who's thinking of maybe potentially starting their own business, whether that's, maybe something
Mm.
online, perhaps.
I think there are a few things. One would be before you put anything in place, do an environmental scan. Do your research about what already exists. Because there's nothing worse than thinking you've come up with something brand new and there's actually something very similar, or something that's similar that hasn't worked. So, not that people should be discouraged, but just to be aware. It's also hard if you start with something new and then you find out actually there are quite a few other people doing this, and this is an area that isn't as novel as you thought. So I would say do your research, start to figure out what's going on in the space that you're in, regardless of what you want to create or sell. I guess the second point would then be figure out your point of difference.
Mm.
So instead of being, discouraged by what you're seeing, figure out what can I do that's different? What can I do that's unique? How do I bring people to this product or to this service? That is a great way to also write down your goals and what you're trying to build, your mission and your vision. I always say it's great to have a mission and a vision statement that you have, rooted in everything you do, because it will help you come back to yourself as things expand. You'll say, does this align with our mission? Does this align with our vision? Do we need to change our mission and vision? So things, I think that would be helpful. I think the third thing I would recommend is building your resilience and your confidence. nothing, or one of the most humbling things in life is starting a business. It's a very humbling experience. So I would say take the time to build your mental resilience, to build your confidence. There are going to be many experiences in business that knock your confidence. There may be 10 failures before one win. Hopefully, that's not the ratio, but that might be. So be prepared for the ups and the downs of running a business because the highs are highs, the lows are lows. So it's important to have that mindset, that mental fortitude to do it. And if you don't feel like you have it yet, build that before you build the business. If you're trying to build your mental resilience and build a business, one is going to be able to be built, but it's very hard to build two at the same time. So I took the time to really think about my personality, my strengths, my weaknesses. Did I have the time and the mental resilience and the support to build BCC? And I felt that I did, and I continue to, of course, build with people and have mentors. I highly recommend not just collaborations, but also mentorship. I think everyone should have at least one mentor and be at least one mentor to someone else. So you're giving, you're receiving. You can be a mentor at any age, any stage. And I think that sometimes people don't give themselves enough credit. So, yeah, be someone's mentor and have a mentor. So, those are kind of some of the tips I would have for people wanting to start a business or who are starting a business.
Aletana, it has been such a wonderful, wonderful pleasure having you on the show today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. Again, so excited. I think I mentioned this to you before that I started following your page, loved what you did, and I was very excited when I got a message from you, because yeah, I love your show, and so thank you for having me.
Thanks so much. And thank you for tuning in to this episode of That's Lit. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you give it a like, subscribe to my channel, and leave me a comment. And I'll catch you in the next episode.